John Reyes.
How you doing, folks?
At the Ocean County Fun Fly.
That's right.
With a little bit of rain going on.
A little wet, but we're making it.
We're making it. Here to talk about RotorFlight.
Yes, absolutely.
And your experiences with it.
So, I'm going to be honest. I came from V-Control with the Neos, and pretty much I switched everything over. Not that there was anything wrong with the Neos, but you know, I wanted to try something different, and I wasn't disappointed at all. So the thing about all my setups, between my RS4 all the way up to my 700 size helis, they're pretty much set up the same way, even the Nitro. My PID settings are pretty much the same on all of them. Maybe I had to tweak some, you know, the tail a little bit on it due to, like, you know, some shakes depending on what helicopter it was, but pretty much they all started off on the same base. So the way I have my Radiomaster TX16 set up is, you know, pretty much all my models are like laid out for me. I can scroll whichever one I want. So currently I have 5 models: the RS4, the Spectre 700, the Raw 580 Nitro, a Nimbus V2, and I also have a Nitron 90. So let's go into my Nimbus setup. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and select that model. It's already on that model. So as you can see, once I go in, the logo comes up, and that's how my screens are set up. So I'm just going to plug in the model, let it activate. So once everything syncs up, all my telemetry comes on, right? And I have my battery meter all the way at the bottom. I have maximum current drawn. I have total capacity used, ESC temperature, my RPM. PID stands for, that's actually the bank switches. And then I have both receiver and transmitter signal quality. So the way that works is it starts off at 100%. And, you know, let's say you want to monitor throughout your flight how well your signal is on both your receiver and transmitter. You know, it's gonna draw whatever the lowest number is. You know, if it starts dropping, that's what it records. While on the current, it wants to record the maximum draw you're having, and capacity is just like the amount of milliamps you're using throughout your flight. And ESC temperature, obviously everybody knows what that is, and RPM, everybody knows what that is as well. So a lot of people have concerns before indicating that, you know, am I always going to need a laptop to set it up and everything? Well, my advice is the first time you're setting it up, yes, go ahead, set it up with a laptop, because you want to have everything, you know, pretty much stationary with how you want your switches and everything set up on the radio to communicate with the flybarless system. But let's say, you know, you experience a crash, you know, and you have to redo everything. You know, the only thing you really have to do, in my opinion, is, you know, obviously go ahead and fix your helicopter up, and then, you know, center all your servos. But then all you have to do once that happens is you go into your system, right? And then you go to your RotorFlight 2 configurator, right? And then you go to your servos, and over here, right, you have the option to choose whatever servo you want to override. But I like to go ahead and do override all servos. And once you override all servos, essentially what this is going to do is it's going to set your neutral position, right? So what I mean by neutral position is, like, it would be like center stick and the tail would be centered. So all you would have to do here is go ahead and pretty much set up a level swash by adjusting your linkages and everything. And you would adjust your pitch linkage as well to set for a 0 degree blade pitch. Now, unlike other flybarless units where, you know, the way you set up your tail is you have to have like a sort of like a pitched offset, RotorFlight's a bit different. So on the tail, what you want to do is, and this is assuming that you're just doing it off the radio, and you crash and you want to redo your tail setup, you just have to make sure that you also have zero pitch on the tail. And that's pretty much it. And then after that, you know, once everything's up and running again, you can just go back to flying. You don't need to plug it back into the laptop because everything else is going to be the same. All right? And that's how, the way I have the radio set up is this is my safety switch, right? This is my auto rotation switch. And this is my idle up 1, 2, and 3, and this is my bailout if you're using bailout. So it's essentially all the way I did the layout was how I had my Mikado V control laid out. Let's see. So on Nitro, I'm gonna plug in my Nitro now. On Nitro, I used, like I mentioned before, I used the same PID settings and everything on the Nitro. The only thing that was different about setting up a Nitro was the throttle. That's the only tricky part. That's the only difficulty most people are going to have when setting up a Nitro on RotorFlight. But it's not that bad once you get the hang of it. So let me go into my model. And I'm going to go ahead and select my Nitro model. So that's the raw 580N. Select model. Let's wait for it to bind, and as you can see, it bounded. Oops. I had my servo backwards,
Yeah.
but that's all right. Let it redo itself. Okay, so as you can tell, it did its dance. The only difficult part about setting up the Nitro is actually the throttle. And the way you set this up is in RotorFlight, if you're doing it off the GUI, on the motor page, right? Then the servo is actually considered your ESC.
Okay.
And what you have to do is, it would help if I had the computer, but since we don't have it, I'm just going to try to walk through it. What you essentially want to do is in that ESC setup, right, there's going to be an option for 0% throttle, cutoff, and maximum throttle. Now, 0% throttle is not going to be your cutoff. 0% throttle means that's your idle, right? So that's what you want to set up for. So the first thing you would do is you would first set up your lowest point, which would be like, not your 0% throttle, but your motor off position, right? And then you would set up the frequency or the range for your highest point, right? So once you set up the lowest and highest point, it's going to be automatic that once you go to 50%, and I'm going to demonstrate it right here. So I'm going to actually activate it. So assuming that you have your lowest, right? So if you look here, right now it's in the idle position. But if I put my motor off switch, that's 0%, right? Mm-hmm. So now I already did set up the highest point. If I raise my stick to the middle position, once I set up my low and high point, that's automatically, you know, it's going to go to the center mark on the carburetor.
Nice.
All right. So the way I have this set up is idle 1, right? Or idle 1 is direct throttle, as you can see. Mm-hmm. So right here I have direct throttle, right? But I have it set so that at 50% throttle, it's going to have a handoff to the governor. So see here, like it doesn't go 50% and it's not doing anything because the motor's not spinning. So if it was actually reading RPM, it would try to achieve that targeted RPM of 1600. So now, you know, so from here, that's direct throttle, but once I go to 50%, it's gonna hand over control to the governor. So once I go to idle 2, That's fully governed. As you notice, it's not moving. It bumped up a little, and the same thing with idle 3. The switch glow, the way I have it set up is, this is my auto rotation position, right? So when I'm autoing, I'm always going to have glow, and I do that for a preventive reason, so that it doesn't have a flame out or anything when you're autoing. So like that's always going to be my starting position, and then this is going to go into my flight modes. Okay. Nice. So that I have that, and then that's the same thing with auto rotation bailout. So if I have this set up as an auto rotation bailout, so that it will, let's say I want to bail out from the auto. If I go here, it'll ramp up and do that, and that's the same way I have it set up on both electric and nitro. So that's pretty much it. I mean, everything else besides the throttle setup is going to be the same on both electric and nitro.
Nice.
And I actually did a video, and I can link it to you later, explaining how I did this throttle setup.
Okay. I can put it in the show notes.
Yep, absolutely.
In the description.
Yep. And that's pretty much it.
Nice. Pretty sweet, dude. Ready to fly.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, buddy.
No problem.
Whew.